What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another sidebar with Tamice and Leah. We're so excited to be back from the Ember Gathering. I'm hoping we get to talk about that a little bit, friend, and the
Yes.
Sacred Gathering, the Sacred Black Lounge Gathering. And so we're a little bit late, a little bit behind, but it's all good. Like it's been a beautiful couple of weeks, and happy to be back. And this time we're talking about episode 4, which was on hip hop and theopoetics. So how you doing, friend?
I'm doing wonderful, friend. It's so good to be with you. Doc, we're on your time. You have told so much into us these past few weeks, and it has been beautiful, and everything is aligned. Everything is aligned. This is the moment that we're supposed to be in conversation. Here we are.
That's right. Here we
Yes.
are. And it was a beautiful episode. The beautiful thing is that this episode featured Nick George, the poet, who is also at the Black Sacred Lounge and also the DJ, the vibe setter. So shout out to Nick George. But
Yes.
tell me a little bit about Oakland. How was that experience for you?
It felt so freeing. That's the word
Mm,
that I continued to drop when I was talking to people about it. It felt so free to be in the streets in the sunlight with each
uh-huh,
other. It's a very different vibe than it is down here in Texas, but I think one of my favorite parts about it, and I think other people have said this too, is when we were all together, there was no competition. It was really
uh-huh,
celebration of brilliance and spirituality and blackness, and there was nothing to fight each other for. Uh,
uh-huh,
there were no power struggles, none of that. It
uh-huh,
was an explosion of joy, it felt like, and
uh-huh.
I'm carrying that vibration with me into my days and my weeks, and I haven't let it go yet, and I won't. Thank you.
Ah,
Yeah,
shame.
it does. Yes.
Ah, Shay. I've talked to a couple of people from the lounge about it and similar they've said similar things, and I'm just so excited about what's coming next now because I'm like, we did it once and that was just the beginning, it was just an idea that now all of that brilliance in that room and the alchemy of those people coming together, that sacred lounge was really really powerful. So shout out to everyone who came and was on the panel for us, and we can't wait to do it again, can't wait to do it again. Oh, Shay, we got to talk about episode 4.
Yes, we do. Yes, we
So
do.
I want to hear from you, friend. You got liner note, you got notes and stuff. I want to hand it over to you. Talk to me about what stood out for you. I mean, I first
Mhm.
have to shout out. Let me give you a little bit of history. So I first have to shout out Xavier. Um, who was the other guest on the show. Xavier and I did work in Atlanta
Mhm.
with Black students at the AUC. And this was like not included in the episode, but we just went off about we put the AUC against anybody, everybody, We worked together and did. This is around the time that the 444 album came out, SZA's
Mhm.
album came out, and
Mhm.
I was, working for predominantly white organization, but doing Black student work. But I loved hip hop.
Mhm.
And on campus, someone was like, you should meet X. X was working for a different organization. And when we would get together, like in the calf, we would be talking for hours about albums, about lyrics, about Jesus. And so we had this idea to do something called Kingdom Collaborative, where again, it was like, we're not doing competition, we're not doing that. Like, we both have the same heart for these students. So let's just work together. And then we started doing these like think tanks. And it was just my work at the AUC was extremely blessed by working with X. He really held space for like my imagination in a way. And I was like, as soon as I got the show, every time I go to Atlanta and I'm doing anything, I hit X up. So shout out to Xavier Brandon. But okay, Fred, sorry, I had to do that. We'll get to
No,
Nick in a minute, but go ahead.
shout out to Xavier. I hope we get to meet in the day. I know that we will.
Yeah,
But since
yeah.
you shifted him out, I'll start with how much I appreciated his breakdown of the history of hip
Uh-huh,
hop. It does have a foundation. It has a cultural foundation, a spiritual foundation,
uh-huh,
intentional. And I think Nick was saying that this is just the next stop in the history of Hush Harbors, or maybe you were saying that. And that's what it
uh-huh,
is. It is.
uh-huh,
It's movement, it's all of these things, but it's also a hush harbor in line with what you
uh-huh,
think. And I think again, I don't remember who said it, but from the brush to the block party, right?
uh-huh, uh-huh,
It's
uh-huh.
so easy to really trace that lineage, and I did wanna read a line to you. I'm reading a book by, Nicholas Powers,
Come on.
yeah, Black Psychedelic Revolution,
Yes.
and yes, yes. So many conversations, right? But there's a moment where he talks about hip hop, and in so many words, kind of is what you're saying, that this was a spiritual experience. And he says it's a kaleidoscope of Black Brooklyn gathered for communion. The
Mm,
DJ was the priest, the beat was the Eucharist, we the believers.
mm.
Isn't that
Ashe.
Ashe? Ashe. That
Certainly.
vibe that I got from this episode and all that we learned.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. It's so true because it's like the way that it enlivens, and when you watch both X and Nick talk about it, you can see the conversation sort of enlivening them,
Yes.
and, it's so funny because I think there's so much to be said, and I do want you to talk to me more about how hip hop is a hush harbor, because I
Sure.
think I mean, that was a kind of a shot in the dark in my work and in, like, some of my coming up through my, dissertation and stuff, and I'm like, I think hip hop is carrying that same thing Baby Suggs was carrying. It's carrying the same thing that Womanist Impulse was carrying. Like it's carrying that technology with
Yeah.
it. And I find it here. And I find that it was so oddly enough in terms of even queerness, because I think hip hop and the AIDS epidemic were getting the same treatment from the church in the 90s. And
Wow.
and so it really kind of that was where I was like, okay, there is this sort of refusal happening in hip hop and this sort of pariah happening in hip hop that I think helped me to make sense of some of my own queer experience.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I feel like the Hush Harbor again is this wild unsanctioned place. You're not and, like, you remember when Nick was saying that, like, "Wait, you could do that?" Like, this idea of, like, unsanctioned sanctuary and how hip hop is keeping the rhythm, it's keeping the beat, it's keeping the clapping, it's keeping the conjure when you think about cypher, and, um I really was trying to drive that home in the episode of saying, like, look how the technology is at work even when we talk about, when we first fell in love with hip hop or songs that move us and things like that. But where do you see Hush Hour in there?
Oh gosh, everywhere. First, I think, and I'll name some of the things that Nick said, and then I'll go to Xavier. But the part about being a spiritual technology, because of the use of language, right? And
Yes.
language being, as we've been taught in church, having the power of life and death.
Mhm. Yeah,
And just the ability to conjure life and tell
yeah.
the truth about life in hip hop
Mhm.
is very, very hush harborish.
Mm,
And she talks about how when you're in love,
mhm,
there's a certain language that you have to be able to pull from. You have no limits
mhm,
because of how internally charged you are, and that gets into the permission space that hush harbors have, that gets into the appetite for truth telling that
mhm,
hip hop was really founded on.
mhm.
And I love the range of hip hop because
Yes.
there's so much you could say, and certainly not all in one episode, but I think he brought up Notorious Thugs. That was one of the songs
Yes, me too.
that just took me over as a
Me
child, but
too.
the lyrics and everything, and then you have a song Cry
Mhm.
years
Yes.
later. So there's so much,
Come on,
and
friend.
it all exists in the same type of spiritual space of permission. It does.
Mhm,
And I
mhm,
love that you talked about queerness because we named how in the clearing, gender performance isn't
mhm.
concrete, it isn't policed, right? It isn't narrow or limited.
Come
And
on.
what I really enjoyed about hip hop growing up in, early to mid 90s was the freedom of gender performance that women could have,
Yes.
that you really don't, it's not as permissible now in the
That's
same way. But
that's right.
what women would do with their voices would have
Mhm,
considered masculine, but not in hip.
mhm.
The
Come
rules are
on, friend.
the rules are different for MC Light and the Queen and
Yes,
all.
indeed.
You can do it, and Lil Kim even, all these people.
Mhm.
And then it was like that kind of permission just faded away when we got away from,
That's
that
right.
era of hip hop, but I didn't forget it. I didn't
Look
forget
at you
because it
pastoring me, man. You pastoring me right now. I'm like, that's what it was. And you
Yeah.
named MC Light and Queen Latifah. And I remember dressing like MC Light at every time there was time to dress up, or like wearing
Right.
Timberlands and jeans and hats and um being allowed to do and express my gender
Sure.
um because of hip hop. And I never put that together till just now.
Oh my gosh, yes. The vocal,
That's
all
what
of
it
that
was.
moving, the way they carried their bodies. Now I'm thinking about the Brad even
Yes.
a little bit. Yeah, and so
It was
hip-hop
allowed
was
and it was
allowed.
celebrated.
Yes, 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 because it
Mhm.
had, substance as well. It wasn't
Mhm.
just aesthetic, it wasn't just a behavior for behavior's sake, it was part of, a package even, and so if
Mhm.
that, um, Monday through Saturday, and then you get to church and you're having to wear your Easter dress, which one for a
Mhm.
certain is gonna feel more like home, more like Hush Harbor?
Mhm.
Pop's gonna win it.
Mhm. That's it right
Oh,
there, friend.
yeah.
You setting people free. I know you are right now. I know you are, because this has set me free right now in real time.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad because that is one of the things that I enjoyed the most about that era. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's true. It's like thinking about how I couldn't figure out what it was, but it was like, I know in a couple of episodes a couple of episodes back we talked about, or it might have just been me and you talking, but like I have always felt a relative like kind of thunder inside of me
Mm.
that I could tap into in the music in church. So
Mhm.
like when the musicians played and people had the rasp, in their voices, it tapped that. It tapped the same thing that MC Light tapped on
Yes.
the album for me.
Yes.
And it was more of a like there is a thump and a sort of thunder inside of me that is being coded as masculine,
Mm.
that because of how I am supposed to present in this world, I have to quiet, but it made me recluse and
Mhm.
it made me hide because I was punished for the thing that felt the most true about me. And just in recent times realizing, and I think Baby Suggs, even though this is a fictional character, it's like I feel like Baby Suggs and I have a like I feel like, especially in the light of like Baby Suggs and her great big heart, and that's how it always felt, like that parts of my heart could not be expressed because my gender could not be expressed. And so this has been really like a interesting journey of feeling like I'm just gonna be out here. I'm just gonna be out here. And to hear you name this thing that I didn't uncover about why I needed to include hip hop in this
Mhm.
in this coverage of this technology that has kept us alive.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you, friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then another thing, along that line that was so cool about and I'm thinking mostly about the women's gender performance because I'm woman identified, and that's what I was paying attention to.
Mhm.
But what was so cool about it then is it wasn't desexualized either.
Mhm. Come on.
Because there was a time where if you had that kind of masculine considered performance, it would be forget about
Mhm.
it. But it wasn't that then. It wasn't.
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
thought MC Light was sexy
Mhm. Come on, friend.
and all of that. So again, when
Mhm.
permissible spaces and
Yes.
inclusive spaces, that was such a great model. It really was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Ashe.
Same.
Ashe.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, Nick talked about theopoetics a little
Yes.
bit more than hip hop. So what
Yeah.
stood out to you about Nick's conversation?
Well, first of all, let me just name on here publicly, my love for Nick has no bounds.
Indeed.
But, uh, you know, again, returning to language, sometimes in church, language, even though we have a liturgical aspect of church, is
Mhm.
still kind of, bracketed, right? It
Mm.
has its limits, it has its lyrics, but I think with hip hop and with theopoetics, it's intentional about expansion, right?
Mhm.
And so I love that he talked about, um, again, the love language and how it continues to push us forward. Because
Mhm,
sometimes, when we sing the same hymns and all that, not that they lose their power, but you're not
mhm.
expanding your mind or your imagination because you're saying the
Yeah.
same word. With
Yes.
theopoetics and the different approaches that you're taking to art, it's like
Mhm.
it's a well that really never runs dry.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that
I
did come through.
yeah, it did. It's just this there's
Mhm,
always gonna be more, always, and we
mhm.
get that.
And
Yeah.
I think, like, when you think about these permissible spaces where it's permissible, there's no competition, I think that's because people are aware that the source is infinite. There's nothing to compete
Mm.
for.
Right.
Um, the fountain from which we gather our creativity is the same, and it is infinite, and
Yes.
it is a well that does not run dry. And even if we dive into the same substance, so to speak, and then decide we're going to alchemize that into words or art or programming, it will
Mhm.
not look the same because it's coming through
Right.
my story, my experience, my like wounding that I've now turned into fruit in my life? So even if we're diving into the same substance, it will not be expressed the same. And that's the beauty of non-competition. When you can be in a room and be 100% you next to somebody else 100% them, and all of y'all do that at the same time. I mean, essentially, that's what I was going for with the lounge, and what I was
Yes.
going for with Ember is like we do not understand the power of uninhibited being, and
Mm,
it requires a couple of things. It requires willingness, right? It also requires a relative amount of trust. It
yeah.
requires us to trust that there is nothing to be taken from me. Um, there is nothing about you that puts me in jeopardy. In fact, me beholding you as you 100% will resurrect me. It's a
Ugh.
way, it's a chemical reaction. It's alchemy. And I feel like my whole vision for social transformation, which is what this podcast is towards, like
Sure.
my whole vision for social transformation is you have to be you. Like,
Mm,
you have to say it how you would say it, do it how you would do it, feel it all the way you wanna feel it. Like, give it to us as you. And, like, when that happens, it will spark a chain reaction socially where people are like, "Wait, you can do that? That's what Nick is talking about." It's like, when somebody shows you it can be done, then
mhm.
it gives you courage. And then that courage, it becomes contagious. And I'm like, I feel like this is what Jesus was tapped into. And this is how he set off a revolution that was nonviolent, because he went to the inner life and
Yes.
showed that, like, empire actually doesn't have nothing to give you. Watch. And actually nothing that dies stays dead. And if you could get that, it'll break fear off your life. And when you're not fearful, you can be brave and you can
Mm,
show up. And I'm like, I feel this so strongly about that source of creativity, um, that I was so grateful that he was like, all right, I need to find another word to actually get at what I actually feel for you. Because this word is not right. And
no.
what if life is about that? What if life is about the search for language to articulate this experience to one
Mm,
another, right?
mm.
And I can
Thank you.
only get language in relationship.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Thank you for
No, you
saying it.
good, friend.
That is so that's getting even more at what I'm thinking because he was talking about, essentially, if I show up in my full authenticity and my theopoetic and you do the same, then we can experience the omni,
Yes.
right? We talk
Yes,
about
friend.
omnipresence theologically, but this is the embodiment of the
Yes, buddy.
omnipresence of God.
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
very rich.
Yes, man. It's so
Mm,
exciting to think about, like, and I think now where I'm at in life, where we are in our country, child, it's just like, I'm no longer pretending that that's not what I'm after. That's what I'm
right.
after. I'm trying to touch God. And I feel like these are the what I've experienced in only 42 years. So I've only been here 42 years. What I've experienced thus far is that my heart usually is open when the presence of God comes near,
Mm,
and I'm usually not just by myself.
mhm.
Now I've felt the presence of God by myself, but buddy, when you're with other people and that stuff goes down, it's way more
Yeah.
enveloping. And I mean that's just what I'm after in my life. Why lie about it? I don't know how
Envelop
long I'm gonna be here.
It is enveloping. Yeah, I want
Mhm.
you to step in it. I really do.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, in thinking about, um, just kinda this shared experience of divinity, it makes me think about, um, kind of the movement of, and I call it Christianity because of where I'm socially located now, but the
Yeah.
Jesus movement, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Things that Xavier was talking about is how, Jesus was in such a unique position to be a radical truth teller.
Mhm. How so?
I mean, you know, from a place where people didn't think good things could come from,
Mhm.
not not in the power structure, not Roman, not any of these things, and so could had a perspective about life
Mhm. Mhm.
so real and so authentic and down to earth, and that galvanized people
Yeah.
because they feel that it was true, and certainly that is, connected to this hush harbor of hip hop that you're
Yes.
trying yes to see. You're doing that so successfully. So I guess I want to, you know, ask you, what has your kind of connection been to hip hop in a religious context or a spiritual context? That's my first question. I do have another one.
Alright, in a religious context. So,
Or like how has it galvanized you in ways? Or
yes, I think it gave me release. I really so I think you get dealt cards, as a person. So my parents went to HBCUs. I was raised middle class. So that comes with a certain social location in your life. But but it also comes with a certain amount of rules, and a certain amount of boundary lines you cannot cross. And, and a lot of times, like, holding those boundary lines was coded as like gratitude, right? Or like homage. And so for me, hip hop was this valve for my anger about the need for these lines and the way and the I guess you could say that the effect that these boundary lines you couldn't cross was having on people that should have been happy and should have been joyful and should have been kind, because of their access, but they weren't. So there was something that I felt was more real in these very disrespectful, I don't give a fuck spaces, that really called to me. And I think it is about the truth telling. I think, you know, um, I honestly think my religion is truth. And so
Mhm,
it just sings to me. It calls to me, and I'm drawn to it. I'm enticed by it. I'm inspired by it. And I think so for me, hip hop was always spiritual. I mean, plus the wordplay,
mhm.
just it's kind of on Nick's, thing of like, you can do this with words. I mean, this idea that like, you know, I was just listening to B-sides the other day and thinking about how well, I actually just wrote this for the book. So here's a snippet of the book. I just wrote it today about I wonder if T.I. and Jay-Z, um, I wonder if they're the way that their grandmothers are experiencing this place
Well,
with ease on their backs and peace
mhm.
because of the way they're not giving a fuck made a way. Because there are
Oh,
a lot of times in their songs where they're like, there's a song where Jay's like, I'm sorry, grandmama, I'm not their slave. And this idea that, the people who are older than us want us to not rock the boat because what we have, we don't want to lose. But
oh.
I'm watching the ways that, I know there are different opinions about him and all of that. But I think his consistent message has been, you've got to play your cards. And this idea that there are grandmothers now who are at rest
Mm,
because these people found a way to game the system and create wealth for their progeny.
mm,
And so I think, to me, I felt like there was more wisdom in rupture and truth telling than there was in playing it safe. Um, so that was one way that it was spiritual. And yeah, the wordplay, the way that you could like say a million different things, and depending on how hip hop trusts you to be, it's like people like Kendrick or J. Cole, like they trust you to have your own wisdom. Nipsey Hussle was like this too. Like, or Jay Electronica, you're only gonna get this if you read. You're only gonna understand this if you pay attention to certain things. And so it could be above your head on 3 levels, but not on 4, right? And
right,
it's just the what would you call that? The generativity of wordplay. Um, and also the respect that MCs will give their listener, to say, I trust you to understand what I'm saying here. Um, and also it'll move your body. I just think it's a very beautiful art form, like you said, with so much range, that it
right.
felt more giving and more expansive than like staying in the lines of what I was allowed to say or do or think about or talk about. I don't know
Yeah.
if that answers the question, but
No, it does because is that so unlike Jesus' use of parable?
yes, indeed. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like Jesus, I mean, hip hop to me is tricksterish. And I
Sure.
feel like that's, I've been thinking about Dr. Gary Green from, episode 2. And because his route is like comedic and mine was hip hop, but we both can see both of those things in
Oh,
Jesus. Jesus used a lot of wordplay, was
sure.
so comedic, and definitely them parables was like flipping all kinds of stuff. All
And
kinds
it
of stuff.
would say, "Them that have ears, let them hear." I'm
That
telling
part.
you stories, but everybody's not going to hear them, and they're not going to hear them the same way.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Jesus was an absolute G. That's why I will not let him go.
yeah. No, I see
Try it
no
if you wanna.
I see no reason to. So
Absolutely not.
I have another question for you. Uh,
Mhm.
Xavier was talking about, how, different generations of hip hop, different opinion and approach and all this. We have the
Mm.
and so in your, I guess, experience now, who is the freshman class of hip hop?
Oh, man.
Who are you
You trying to get
listening
me in
to?
trouble on the internet.
No, no,
Mm.
no. This
No, it's good.
yeah,
I
who are some of
really okay. I like Doechii a lot.
okay,
I like Tyler, the Creator. Um, Dr. Green has put me on to Don Toliver.
okay, I'm not put on
Um, I know. Who else am I listening to right now? I've started listening back to Nas, so I don't think there's a freshman class. Like when Nick was talking, and I don't know if I included it in the episode, but like now that I'm older, I'm tuned into wisdom. So I like the wisdom components that are coming out of hip hop. So those 3 are probably the youngest ones I'm rocking with. Oh, Lareezy. I'm really rocking with Lareezy. He did a song with PJ Morton and Rhapsody that I
uh,
think he's really coming up. And then Baby Keem's album was really good. I like wordplay, and I like, even if they're young and even if it's trap, but like you're doing alchemization of your own life process and it's producing wisdom. Those are more sort of the people that I tend to lean towards, of like, tell this story, young man, young woman, young person, like tell this story and give us wisdom, from your social location. Like, I don't know what it means to grow up in COVID or in a different type of struggle than the kids who were writing songs in the 80s and in the 90s. Like, their social location is different. um so I'm going to incline my ear to their perspective on the world and what they see as the truth, based on their experience. So I always try to listen for that. But those are the ones I listen to right now. I really like Doechii, buddy.
No, thank you for naming that. I was asking really for myself and not for a friend because I'm
Ooh.
much on the R&B side of things. I'm over with Duran Bernard, and so
Oh,
I'm
yes.
I'm wanting to know who's got the hip hop these days, so I
Oh
have
my
to get
goodness.
and check that out. Thank you for
Yeah.
naming those.
Yeah. It's been a really beautiful process of like figuring out what is my taste in hip hop, but I think
Mhm.
it's that like teachers,
Yeah, I love
you
that.
know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that's honestly my taste in any art is teachers and people who can, express love and people
Mhm.
who can the human experience in such creative and clever ways. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
You
Make
know,
it
his
beautiful.
album is popping in my head right now that you have to listen to if you haven't. It's Chance's new album. It's not new anymore,
Yes,
but
yes.
Chance the
Re
Rapper, yeah, he did something with Starline that I think should not go over our heads.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's
it should not
so
go over.
unfamiliar. It shouldn't.
Mhm.
Not in
Mhm.
this space, so yes. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for saying that. You've tapped into something
Man,
really cool here.
it's been fun doing it with you. We got the last episode is a panel discussion.
Mhm.
So episode 5 is just hearing more about the guests and like their actual work as resurrection technology in the world. And then the last episode is a panel and they all talk together. Um, so that's going to be really fun. So I'm excited to talk to you about that episode too, because I know that's going to be that episode's going to be there's going to be a lot to talk about from that one. So
Yeah.
thank you,
We know
friend.
it's fun. Thank you. Thank you for your
Love doing this with you.
beats.
Ashe. See
Ashe.
y'all next time.